Catholic, but what is it like to be here?
It's, although being a Protestant, there's still a lot of faithfulness here and a lot of people all over the world gathering for this, which is just really awesome. It's wild to see the amount of people here just for this event.
You guys, thank you so much.
Thank you.
What an experience. I don't want to make you miss out at all. Lester, if I do have another second, I also want to introduce you over here to Joe and Devin. Guys, you lucked out. You are on your honeymoon. You were in Rome for one night. What was that like?
Well, lucked out was an understatement. So cool to be here. We're only in Rome for 3 days. To be able to be here coincidentally for this, everything, it's truly unbelievable.
Joe, what was that like? What's it like hearing these bells ringing, be around all these people?
It's a surreal moment. It's hard to put in words right now, but like my wife said, to only be here for 3 days and to be a part of history, I can't wait to tell my grandkids about this one day.
You guys were here witnessing it. Can you give us a sense of the crowd? We're hearing all these different languages, so many different types of people here. What does it feel like?
Amazing. Yeah, the crowd, I feel like everyone was so intently watching that screen, and then the smoke, and then I think we're all like, is it black? Is it white? Like, it was hard to tell the exact color, but I think when everyone, it clicked, and the cheering, you knew.
And then the bells just...
And then the bells.
30 seconds later.
Absolutely. Puts it all together, and now we can't wait to wait, and hopefully see who it is.
And now, right now is actually the waiting, and this crowds, Lester, are pouring in actually as the bells are ringing. We're seeing, I would say, probably about 10, 15,000 people were in here when that happened, but now the crowds are just coming in. I'm going to send it back to you because we just lost communication. We're going to dial back in, Lester.
Molly, thanks very much. What an incredible scene there in the square as the people move in and those who were able to witness it. And we'll be talking, of course, to more of them. I want to bring in our Vatican analyst, Christopher White, now, who's a Vatican correspondent for National Catholic Reporter. We appreciate you being with us. This happened in a very short time, I guess not compared necessarily to the last few conclaves, but again, a fairly short time. What do you read into that and who we might see step out of that loge here in the next hour or so?
Yeah, I think going into this, many of us thought it might take some time for them to reach a conclusion because they're men from all over the world who hadn't spent a lot of time together. But I think because this quick decision, we're likely to find one of the names higher up on most people's front-runner lists emerge from the balcony. I'm not going to make any predictions as to who that might be, but I think it's going to be a name that those of us who cover the Vatican day in and day out are probably more familiar with than had they gone to a third or fourth day and perhaps needed to reach a more compromised type candidate.
When there will be a name announced here shortly, we'll find out the papal name of the new pope. What do we read into that?
Well, a name says a lot about someone's priorities. I mean, Pope Francis shocked the world when he became the first pope to ever take the name Francis, named, of course, after the 13th century saint who eschewed wealth and focused on the poor. It sort of set a roadmap for his papacy. So, of course, we'll be paying attention to the name the Pope chooses, what he comes out on the balcony wearing. Pope Francis, of course, wore just the simple white vestments that caught so many by surprise. And he had that very simple greeting, buonasera, good evening. So, of course, we'll be reading into those first signs and signals to hear what the new Pope has to say about his papacy that we might just find out in the next hour or so.
All right, Christopher, thank you very much. We'll have you stand by. Let me bring back George Weigel into the conversation. George, can you walk through what's going to happen here over this next hour and the things that have to be clicked off?
The new pope will be taken to what's sometimes referred to as the Room of Tears. It's a small sacristy off the back of the Sistine Chapel where several white cassocks of various sizes have been prepared. He'll take the one that fits best. The tailor from Gamarelli Brothers here in Rome will get him fitted up properly. He'll then receive in procession. The College of Cardinals will come up one by one to congratulate him. And then the Masters of Ceremonies will lead the new Pope through the Sistine Chapel, through the Basilica, into what's called the Hall of Benedictions over St. Peter's Basilica, the second tier of the facade there. There's a white curtain with a red drapery there. That's the central loggia of the Basilica. The Cardinal Proto-Deacon, the senior cardinal in the Order of Cardinal Deacons, will come out and announce the name of the new pope and the regnal name, the papal name that he's taken, and then the new pope will come out and be greeted by the crowd.
Is it fair to say this will likely be someone that most of the people in that crowd or around the world will not know?
I think that's probably the case. There were not a lot of large world-scale public personalities in the College of Cardinals at this moment. I think the Italian crowd here, which will be a substantial part of this, because people are, right as we're sitting here, running to St. Peter's from all over Rome, will know the cast of characters better than people who are just here for a holiday. But whoever it is, I think will be greeted very warmly. There's a sense in which this community of 1.4 billion people has been without a father for over 2 weeks now.
And you have, as we've said, for a long time you have covered the Vatican for us. This is now another conclave that has gone down in relatively short order. Are we setting? Is there a new standard or a new modern look at these conclaves?
Well, I think you do see that because we now had the third conclave that was decided where Pope was elected within 2 days, and that's extraordinary, especially considering the global nature of the church now and how Francis tried to expand it, appointing cardinals from the peripheries, as he said. And I think one of the wonderful things as you look at this crowd, you see all the flags from all over the world. People are proud of their country. They come to celebrate not only their faith, but where they're from. And it kind of has the feeling I've always thought of a World Cup event, you know, when they're waiting for them. But the other thing that Christopher said, and I think that is very true, is right from the start, we're going to see, is this Pope going to continue France's papacy of humility in that he didn't wear the red mozzetta when he came out. He just came out in the simple white cassock. Will he take the papal limousine, something Francis shunned?
So he will be compared to his...
Instantly.
Okay.
Instantly. And that's a tough comparison right from the start. I mean, that moment when you walk out on the balcony is frightening. It would be frightening for anyone. You've got 50,000 people in the square all cheering. And right from the start, I mean, it took Francis a little bit to get going in his speech. And right from the start, you're going to be compared to your predecessor.
Let me let Molly take it away for a little bit and get us a sense of what's happening right now in St. Peter's Square. Obviously, you see people are now packing around the Basilica. You can hear the cheers. Molly, give us a sense of what it's like to be in that.
Communications actually just dropped, but I do think you just asked me to bring us down here. I'm standing with a couple of Italians, actually Romans. This is your city.
Yeah.
You have come to the square. Did you watch the smoke come in?
Yes, we arrived like 5 minutes before the white smoke came on. We felt so lucky. We thought we didn't make it for the last time. It was very moving, very moving.
What does it feel like? This is your city. You have people from all over the world.
Yes.
I see flags from everywhere.
That's the reason why we are here, because my daughter asked me, Mom, why don't we go? Yes, sure. It's a historical event. Everybody comes from around the world. We must go and watch it.
And looking out at this crowd, seeing the flags, you're standing next to people. Where are you from?
Roma.
You're from Rome as well. People
Yes.
from all over this city who hear the bells and then rush in. What do you want? What do you want to say to the world? Right?
Oh, what does
it feel like? What does it mean to you?
Less wars. Free Palestine.
Okay. Well, now we are watching, of course. So enjoy watching with this huge crowd. Lester, the crowds are only growing. We're seeing people coming in from all directions. I'll send it back to you.
We've lost IFB with you.
Yeah, people want to get close and be able to greet the new Pope, who will make the appearance in due time. And again, we're just working off previous conclaves, and it's generally been about an hour 10, hour 15. So not precise, but that will be a huge moment. And Andy, to your point, there will be a comparison that begins right away to his predecessor. And George, at the same time, he will have to demonstrate that he is his own person. Is that difficult in this context?
No, I don't think so. Every pope is different. Every pope brings a certain personality, a certain set of talents to this very, very difficult job. And in that context, I think it's probably good not to think about this in terms of winners and losers. This is a tremendous burden that someone, a human being, a man, has just accepted to spend the rest of his life carrying. To be the spiritual father of 1.4 million people, to be both firm and gentle, to be both a truth teller and a man of compassion and charity, to reform a bureaucracy here in Rome that is in very bad need of reform, including financial reform, and somehow in the midst of all of that to cultivate his own soul, to remain a person of prayer, a person in conversation with the Lord. That's really asking a lot of anybody. So whoever we see come out on that central loggia deserves a great deal of credit for accepting that burden.
Yeah, I didn't necessarily appreciate how much this person's life is going to change. Obviously, you're the Pope, but at the same time, we were talking earlier, this person now won't go to the airport and fly home and say goodbye to friends and pack up. And
he's not going to walk down the Borgo Pio and get a pizza.
No.
I mean,
which he might have been able to do.
Might have been able to do 72 hours ago. It's a real sacrifice of self. You know, there's that famous scene in the end of John's Gospel where the risen Lord Jesus says to Peter 3 times, "Do you love me? Do you love me? Do you love me more than the rest of these?" John Paul II interpreted that to mean that Peter is being asked, can you empty yourself of yourself more than the rest of these in order to be the servant of the servants of God? And that's a tremendous challenge for anyone. And it's a challenge that deserves the support of the people of the church, whatever their views about individuals or particular questions in the church. Whoever this is has agreed to take on a very, very difficult and burdensome job, and literally to walk the way of the cross with the Lord.
And I think also accepting that burden has an impact, obviously has an impact on the person, but can either confine them or free them. In Francis' case, it liberated him.
That's right.
Because he was not the charismatic figure that the world came to know when he was in Buenos Aires as Cardinal Jorge Mario Bergoglio. He was much more quiet, almost dour in the bishop of the slums, rode the subway. He brought that mentality, that caring for the poor, to the papacy. But he wanted to reach out. It was so important to him. And you saw that right from the beginning to the second to last day of his life, when on Easter Sunday he rode in the Pope Mobile, and he would be dead 24 hours later. As one of his friends said, he died with his boots on.
We are now joined by Bishop Robert Barron of the Diocese of Winona, Rochester, Minnesota. Bishop, thank you so much for being here. You stopped by our broadcast position a little while ago and started up the conversation we've all been having over the last a couple of days. You know, when will it happen? Can you give us your thoughts in watching this moment come true?
Yeah, it was sooner than I thought. I was anticipating perhaps tomorrow. You know, there were some divisions among the cardinals during the general congregations. A lot of us thought it would take a little while to sort this out. The fact they came to a consensus pretty quickly, obviously, I think it's telling and very interesting. Did a candidate emerge that everyone said, okay, we can at least live with this candidate? That seems to be what happened. So I think a lot of us were surprised by the rapidity of this.
Yeah, this is obviously a new chapter in Catholic history. How different, though, will this chapter be from the previous one? And I'm not necessarily speaking only of, Pope Francis.
Well, we'll see. That was the great issue. It always faces a conclave. To what degree do we continue the momentum of the previous papacy? To what degree do we set a new direction? As I say, there were divisions about that. They found someone that I guess at least 89 thought will carry us in a good direction. Maybe a balance of those two. That's my guess. They found someone that would have the best of Francis and maybe some of the corrections the Cardinals wanted. But again, they came to it quickly, which I think is a good sign.
We will, in short order, learn the name of the new Pope. Can you give us your thoughts on the name, the significance of the name he picks?
Well, it's the first major decision he makes, and it's a very telling one. Now all these names are so loaded with symbolic significance. If he becomes Francis II, that'll tell us a lot. If he's John Paul III, that will tell us an awful lot. If he's John the 24th, or if he's Pius the 13th, I mean, all the recent papal names are pretty loaded with symbolic significance. Or he might do something very different, like Pope Benedict the 16th. So we'll see. It'll be the first indication, serious indication, of what this man wants to do.
We're looking, obviously, at the high shot over St. Peter's Square right now. We can hear the crowd being energized now. Here comes the marching band. In a very short time, we would expect we will see the new Pope, and we will learn the new Pope's name and whatever message he may share at this moment. There's the balcony on the right side of your screen, where he will make his first appearance soon. We got our first indication, obviously, the smoke, the white smoke pouring out of the chimney that we've been staring at, and then the sound of bells tolling, loudly tolling over the Vatican and throughout the streets of Rome. People taking it as a call to answer, now filing their way here to witness this historic moment in their church. I say their church, or those who are simply curious about the faith and want to be a part of this moment. We will, we tend to always look at popes as peacemakers in a very turbulent world, and so they obviously are key figures that will be watched around the world as this moment comes together.
They become symbols of moral authority, a moral voice. I mean, that's what Francis brought to the issue of climate change with his encyclical Laudato Si. He was able to bring that moral weight to that issue, and that's why popes in particular are seen not just by Catholics but by people around the world as important figures.
We want to dip in now and listen to some of the pageantry and the songs that lead up to the appearance of the new Pope.